We spend our time, energy, and money on things that matter most to us, right? At least that's what we've been told. Okay. But if that's completely true, then explain something to me. Why do ambitious, intelligent, capable women have goals they still haven't accomplished? Why are there opportunities you know you should pursue, but you keep hesitating? Or why are you procrastinating on something you actually want? And why can you be incredibly confident in one area of your life and start questioning everything about yourself in another? Maybe the problem is that you don't want it bad enough. Maybe your confidence is waning because somewhere along the way, you've started paying more attention to what's happening around you than what you already know to be true about you. And that's what I want to talk about today. Because if you are a high-performing woman and maybe an entrepreneur or an executive or a business owner or a woman in leadership who's been questioning herself lately, stay with me. Stick around to the end. This is going to be good because we're going to talk about what's quietly stealing your confidence. And then I'm going to give you 3 mindset shifts that can help you start operating like yourself again. And the last one may surprise you because I'm not going to tell you to just take more risks. Here's something I've learned about confidence. It doesn't always disappear because you've failed. Sometimes confidence starts disappearing because you've stopped trusting yourself. That is different. I want you to catch that. You can have the degree, you can have the experience, and you can have the accomplishments. You can even have receipts for days, honey, and still walk into a new season and suddenly start questioning whether you're capable. That's especially common in people like us, ambitious women, high-performing women, because success has a funny way of raising the stakes. The more you've accomplished, the more you feel like you have to protect. You have to protect your reputation. You have to protect your career, your business, your income, your credibility, your image. And sometimes, friends, without realizing it, you go from asking, what do I want, to asking, what if I get this wrong? And that's where I think we need to start. We need to look at what's holding you back. Now, there are 3 things that I want you to consider. Could it be perfectionism? Okay, let's start there. Because perfectionism has excellent PR. We make it sound like a positive thing. Oh, I'm just a perfectionist. Girl, sometimes that's not excellence. Sometimes that's fear wearing a cute little outfit. Perfectionism can convince you that if you can't guarantee the outcome, you shouldn't even make the move. So instead of seeing mistakes as a part of learning, you start treating mistakes as evidence that maybe you're not ready. We talked about that reticular activating system. Or maybe evidence that you're not as good as you thought you were. Or evidence that everybody else knows something that you don't. I've convinced myself of this. And that becomes especially dangerous for people like us because we've probably spent years building an identity around our competence. You're the problem solver. You're the leader. You're the person who normally knows what to do. So when you enter a situation, if you don't know what to do, that can shake your confidence. But not knowing isn't incompetence. Sometimes it simply means you've reached a level you've never occupied. And if your goal is growth, that's actually supposed to happen. You cannot become something you've never been and expect everything to feel familiar. I want to say that one more time because I want you to get it. You cannot become something you've never been and expect everything to feel familiar. And if you're constantly interpreting unfamiliarity as inadequacy, you're going to keep shrinking back from the very opportunities that could expand your life. But perfectionism isn't the only confidence thief. Let's look at some external attribution, okay? Have you ever accomplished something impressive and immediately explained it away? Well, I just happened to know the right person, or the timing was perfect, or I got lucky. Oh, they helped me. Oh, it really wasn't that big of a deal. Meanwhile, if another woman told you she accomplished the exact same thing, you'd be like, girl, do you know how amazing that is? But when it's you, suddenly we need an investigation. We want to give everybody and everything credit except ourselves. Now, I'm not saying other people don't necessarily contribute to your success. Of course they do. I'm not saying timing doesn't matter. Of course it does. And I certainly believe there's room for faith, favor, opportunity, relationships, and circumstances. But there is also you, your decisions, your work ethic, your experience, your judgment, your talent, your resilience, your leadership skills, your ability to figure things out. If every success gets attributed to something outside of you, what evidence are you giving yourself that you can trust yourself the next time? That's where self-efficacy becomes important. Your confidence isn't built simply by telling yourself, I'm confident. Confidence grows when you have evidence that says, I've handled things before. I can handle things again. But if you keep deleting yourself from the story of your own success, eventually you're going to look at your accomplishments and wonder how you got there. And that's when imposter syndrome, self-doubt, negative self-talk, and hesitation can start getting louder. Then there's the third one. An ambitious woman, this one will get us, okay? It is the overworking trap. Sometimes we confuse achievement with worth. If I'm producing, I'm valuable. If I'm accomplishing something, I'm valuable. If everybody needs me, I'm valuable. If my business is growing, I'm valuable. If my team is performing, I'm valuable. If I'm getting recognition, I'm valuable. But what happens when things get quiet? What happens when the business isn't growing? What happens when the promotion doesn't come? What happens when the launch flops? What happens when you work incredibly hard and still don't get the outcome you expect? If your confidence is dependent on constant achievement, every setback becomes personal. Now you're not evaluating what happened, you're evaluating who you are. And those are two very, very different conversations. The question should be, what can I learn from this? But instead, what we do is we start asking, what's wrong with me? That's why mindset work for ambitious women has to go deeper than motivational quotes and positive thinking. You need a relationship with yourself that exists independently of your accomplishments. Because the truth is, if achievement is the only evidence you use to determine your value, you are going to have to keep achieving just to feel okay. That is exhausting. So, what do you do instead? Okay, that brings me to the 3 things that I have for you. I want to help you rebuild your confidence. First thing you need to do is be introspective. This is where I think everything begins. Introspection is where you understand that you are the sum of your influence, your experience, your perspective, and your passion. You're also adding in your value, your skills, your habits, and your choices. And all of these things have shaped the person sitting here watching this video today. And you need to understand her, friend. Not the woman Instagram says you should be, not the woman your family expects you to be, and not the woman your boss needs you to be, not even the woman you were 5 years ago. You, right now in this moment, what's working for you? What's no longer working? What do you value right now? What environments bring out your best? What consistently throws you off? What do you actually want, and what are you capable of? Who are you becoming? Because once you understand those things, you can begin creating what I call your self-concept. It's a clear picture of the person you're choosing to become and how that version of you operates. Then you need a personal operating system that supports her. Because knowing who you want to be isn't enough. Your habits, boundaries, routines, decision-making, relationships, environments, and behavior have to support that identity. And that's where confidence becomes less about hype and more about alignment. But there's another piece to this, friend. You have to be teachable. You need a personal curriculum. And I want to explain what I mean by that. Okay, you've heard it before. It was going around a long time ago. It's essentially a form of self-directed learning. And this means taking responsibility for identifying what you need or want to learn, finding the appropriate resources, applying what you learn, and evaluating whether it's actually helping you grow. So in other words, stop consuming information just because somebody else says you need it. Okay? Your personal curriculum should be tailored to you. What are you trying to become better at? What skills does your next level actually require? Maybe it's leadership development. Maybe it's emotional intelligence. Maybe it's financial literacy. It could be communication or marketing. Maybe it's learning to negotiate. Okay? Maybe it's understanding artificial intelligence. I don't know. It could be learning how to manage people, solve conflict. Your curriculum should be based on the gap between who you are now and who you are becoming. And there's another piece that ambitious women like you and I tend to overlook: bandwidth. Okay? You cannot learn everything at once. Just because information is useful doesn't mean it's useful right now. That's why becoming teachable also requires intentionality. And I don't want you collecting information. I want you acquiring knowledge that you can actually apply, because the goal isn't to know more. The goal is to become more capable. And that brings me to the last mindset shift that I want to talk about today. Be intentional. Now, you've probably heard people say things like, just take the risk, jump, bet on yourself, do it afraid. And sometimes, absolutely, I agree. But I think there's another approach that can create movement without creating unnecessary anxiety. And that is to be intentional. Intentional simply means you're doing something deliberately and on purpose. And there's a huge difference between taking a random risk and making an intentional decision. Here's what that can look like. You seek knowledge. You consider what you know. You apply that information to what you already know to be true about yourself. And then you make a deliberate decision. That's not fear. That's discernment. And being intentional doesn't mean waiting until you have perfect information either. Remember what we said about perfectionism. You may never have 100% certainty. Intentionality means based on what I know, based on what I've learned, based on who I am, and based on where I'm trying to go, this is the decision I'm choosing to make. Do you hear the difference? Now you're operating from agency instead of anxiety. You're not waiting for the world to give you permission. You're developing enough self-awareness to give yourself direction. And that, my friend, changes confidence. So, if you've been listening to this and you're thinking, okay, Andrea, all right, I know I'm capable, but I don't feel aligned with the woman I know I could be. That's exactly why I created the Executive Alignment Framework Leadership Intensive. This isn't about teaching you how to pretend to be more confident, okay? This program is about helping you develop the self-awareness, personal mastery, clarity, leadership mindset, and personal operating system that allow confidence to become a natural result of alignment. Because I really don't want you building your next level around somebody else's definition of success. I want you to understand who you are, how you operate, and what you need in order to lead yourself well. You'll find information about the Executive Alignment Framework Leadership Intensive below down in the description. So I hope you grab that and join. It's a 5-day program online, okay? So before you leave, remember these 3 things. If your confidence has been slipping, look at what's underneath it. Perfectionism may have you interpreting normal mistakes as evidence that you're inadequate. External attribution may have you giving away the credit for accomplishments that should be helping you build self-trust. And overworking may have you using achievement to prove your worth instead of allowing achievement to simply be something that you do. And the mindset shift: be introspective enough to know yourself. Be teachable enough to intentionally develop yourself. And be intentional enough to make decisions based on what you know to be true about yourself. Because, friend, confidence doesn't always need to be created. Sometimes it just needs to be remembered. All right. You have evidence. You've survived things. You've learned things. You've built things. You've figured things out. You've made mistakes and recovered. You've had wins, and you probably don't give yourself enough credit for them. So maybe the next version of you doesn't need another pep talk. Maybe she needs you to stop questioning everything she's already proven. If this resonates with you, please subscribe to my channel, because we have a lot more conversations coming up about self-awareness, confidence, personal mastery, leadership development, mindset, goal achievement, and becoming the woman that you and I both know you are capable of becoming, okay? And check out that Executive Alignment Framework Leadership Intensive below. I think you really will enjoy it. And I'll see you, my friends, in the next video. Bye.